Originally, I had booked my next guest because I really wanted to talk to him about leadership in the Republican Party nationally, with Sarah Palin, the debate, about who will take the mantle for the Republican Party heading into the next presidential election. But I think it's fitting that we have him on tonight because obviously this is a key moment for not just the Democrats that appear poised to have this bill pass, but also Republicans as well. Michael Brodkorb, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's always nice talking with you, Esme.
Well, absolutely. And I was interested in actually framing, really an hour of discussion, which I would like to do at some later point, about the identity of the Republican Party, considering some issues as individuals such as Sarah Palin, the issue with Ron Paul doing extremely well in some straw poll votes, the issue of sometimes moderate Republicans, including Tom Horner, a moderate Republican from Minnesota who's running for governor of Minnesota, who is running as an independent because he feels the Republicans are not appealing enough to moderates. And that is all part of a larger debate about where the Republican Party goes from here. But I want to ask you about something. David Frum, a leading conservative voice, an analyst, somebody that is extremely well respected in conservative circles, has written this tonight, and I don't know if you've heard this, but this is on his blog. He writes, "Conservatives and Republicans today suffered their most crushing legislative defeat since the 1960s. It's hard to exaggerate the magnitude of the disaster. Conservatives may cheer themselves that they'll compensate for today's expected vote with a big win in the November 2010 elections, but," and he goes on to say, with a very gloomy forecast, that what once looked rosy for the Republicans just a matter of weeks ago with the election of Scott Brown in Massachusetts suddenly doesn't look that great. Some pretty tough words there. What do you think, Michael?
Well, first of all, I think that this has been, the last year has been. There's been a great revival of the party. I mean, we suffered a tough election in 2008. I've been involved in the party going back to 94. There's been some ups and downs. The Democrats have had the same ups and downs. I think tonight is clearly the passage of this bill. The Democrats have control of the United States House of Representatives. They have control of the United States Senate and a president that is a Democrat. They occupy the branches of government that require a bill to get passed of this magnitude. That being said, I do think in my travels across the state, in my discussions with Republicans all across the state, and with some Democrats that I also meet with too, our best days are yet to come. And this bill tonight, I have been watching television the entire day. It's been a gorgeous day, but I've been watching television. In my travels leading up and seeing today on the news, seeing this debate in Washington, the intensity level is something I've never experienced before. In all my years being involved in politics, I've never felt the intensity level on a particular issue like this ever before. I think the Democrats have overreached. I mean, I understand what the quote that you read, and I hadn't heard it before, but I was listening to your program earlier when you were discussing it. But I want to point out a poll from commentary from Doug Schoen, who's a Democrat consultant, who said, quote, "Democrats are pursuing policies that are out of step with the way the ordinary Americans think and feel about politics and government. Barring some change of approach, they will be punished severely at the polls," end quote. I think the American public is not only looking at the end product of this bill, the cost, it's going to raise how it's going to increase the deficit.
But Michael, that is a source of debate because the Congressional Budget Office, there are a lot of analyses on this that say it will actually reduce the deficit. Help me out here. I think that's what a lot of people are struggling with, is that this is a great unknown.
Sure, it is a great unknown, and I've heard it on both sides. I've heard both sides. One thing that I think is crystal clear, though, this process has been horrible. The partisanship in Washington has never been higher. The intensity level in terms of the frustration with Congress and the president and this process, this is what happens when you exclude the other party from being a part of the discussions. And I think if there is one tactical mistake that I think the Democrats failed to do, is they failed to listen to the election results in Virginia, they failed to listen in New Jersey, and they failed to listen with Massachusetts. They failed to listen. Those are all states that the president carried in 2008. These are all states that have since elected Republicans. They should have done more to bring Republicans to the table and to work with them, and they didn't do that. And I think the process here is something that I think will hurt the Democrats more than this level of partisanship, this level of intensity, this level of distrust towards Washington. The Democrats had the votes, but they could have done this in a way, and they could have led. What they did is they rammed this through, and this intensity level is not only with the product of the bill, what's in the bill and the issues, but it's also the process. And I think the process is what is going to be the most troubling for people. I will tell you, Esme, what's going to hurt Congressman Walz in the 1st Congressional District when he votes, the way we think, he's going to vote for this bill likely. If he votes for it, he's going to be hurt not only on the product, but on the process. It's the kind of leadership he campaigned against when he ran in 2006. He's become the poster child for it in Washington, and he's going to get hurt at the polls, I feel, in November because of it.
My guest is Michael Brodkorb. He is the deputy chair of the Minnesota Republican Party. You may also know him as the man who created the popular blog, Minnesota Democrats Exposed. You no longer are the blogger behind that blog. You've stepped down from that, but you are the deputy chair of the Republican Party. I want to take you on one of the things that you said, because I think that the Democrats did hear loud and clear the election of Scott Brown. And I think in the aftermath of that election, I think you saw Barack Obama inviting Republicans to the table with a discussion. It can be argued that that was all for show, but the perception certainly, and perception is reality when it comes to these kinds of issues, the perception is that there was a give and take. There are certain events that took place. The raising of a major health insurer in California, the raising of those rates by 40%. There were certain events that took place. The president changed the way he approached this, both personally and politically. And I think had it not been for the election of Scott Brown, that never would have happened. So I do think, in a way, I think there are some people who say that the wake-up call that was delivered with Scott Brown's election caused a shift in Democratic strategy that would not have taken place had that election not happened. Because of the death of Senator Kennedy, it would not have occurred until November. So I think it's an interesting situation to see. I also think that the Republicans are going to have to struggle with another issue. There's a very real possibility that there could be a significant upswing in the economy. If that happens, where will that put the Republicans in November?
I think the elections locally in the state of Minnesota and across the country are going to be about the economy and jobs. And I think at the end of the day, Democrats are going to have a tough time with the runaway spending in this bill. We can disagree on the amount, but the runaway spending in the bill, the process in Washington, the negative ratings that Congress and the Minnesota legislature face because of the leadership and how they're doing things. The discussion in Minnesota locally, just to speak locally, because I'm the deputy chair of the Republican Party, will be about jobs and the economy. And, what you're seeing on the Democratic side, whether it's about issues related to health care or it's going to become to taxes and spending, every major candidate on the DFL party side is talking about raising taxes. Mark Dayton is talking about it, kind of leading the charge on talking about raising taxes. Every major candidate on the DFL side is proclaiming they will raise taxes. Every candidate on the Republican side, every major candidate on the Republican side is talking about sensible government, about reining in government spending, about looking at the tax code, reforming the tax code, lowering taxes, and reinventing the way that we do government. The Democrats are going to have a very tough time.